Please say your passphrase.
My voice is my password.
Welcome back, Brett.
Almost every day there are news reports about hackers defeating ordinary password security on networks. That's leading a number of organizations to consider voice biometrics as a solution. I'm here today with Brett Baronic of Nuance Communications, which is a voice solutions provider, and we're going to discuss this. Brett?
Hi, Howard.
Hi. I'd like to ask you, first of all, what is voice biometrics?
Sure. So Howard, voice biometrics is an authentication technology that allows an individual to access a system thanks to their voice. So at a very high level, picture somebody that's accessing a mobile app, or they're trying to secure a transaction on a website. They would be asked to say a passphrase such as, "My voice is my password." And once they utter that passphrase, in the background, there's a voice biometric algorithm that analyzes the voice characteristics of their voice. And if it is the person that they claim to be, then they get to access the system.
This is a system that requires at the enterprise end a number of servers that are used for the authentication.
That's right, Howard. So it's very similar to the standard authentication processes that a lot of the enterprises out there are using today. Think about banks. So your credentials, your usernames and password, for example, are stored in a database on-premise at the bank. And the mobile app, for example, will communicate your username and password, or your website will communicate your username and password to that server. So it's the same architecture. It's a client-server architecture, and all the processing is done at a centralized location.
Why is it more secure than, I mean, if I'm careful with a password, why is voice more secure? Why is it better?
That's a very good question. And even if you are somebody that's very diligent with your password, you don't share it, you make sure that it's a complex alphanumeric password that is very, very difficult for somebody to guess or to crack. There's still the issue of the back-end database, which we were just talking about. And in the last couple of years, we've heard about some very high-profile cases where hackers have compromised databases of passwords. Last year, Adobe lost 150 million passwords. Those passwords are now available for malicious individuals to compromise people's accounts online. The big difference with voice biometrics is that we don't store a credential that can be used for authentication. And let me explain what that means. The voice print that is stored in the centralized servers that we were referring to, should a hacker get access to those, they can't use that voice print to access the system. The only thing that allows a voice biometric system to gain access to an individual is the voice itself. And so that is a significant difference in security between passwords and voice biometrics. A hacker cannot compromise a centralized database.
What about the fact a hacker, can overhear me giving the password?
That is a very legitimate worry that people have with voice biometrics. What if somebody hears me say the passphrase, such as "my voice is my password," they can record that, then they can use that to access the system. Voice is, after all, the method of authentication, and it is your voice. If a malicious individual records your voice and plays it back, the system will correctly identify it as your voice. We do have a number of algorithms to detect playback recording. One of them is called playback detection. So it turns out that if I ask you, Howard, to say "my voice is my password" 100 times, you're going to speak it slightly differently every single time. A recording will play it back the same way every single time. And that's something that we can detect and detect a recording attack.
Voice biometrics as an integral part of a smartphone. Are we going to see that, and what are the objections to that?
I think we will see it, and I think that as we've seen smartphone manufacturers start implementing biometrics, such as fingerprint biometrics, we're going to see more biometric modalities become available on smartphones, and voice biometrics is definitely going to be one of them. I think the big question is that biometric going to be used simply to unlock the phone, or will it also be used by third parties such as banks and telcos and others to provide access to their mobile apps? That's a big question that we all have in the industry, and there are some organizations out there working on standards that would allow that to occur. So time will tell, but that's still a big question mark.
So as organizations try to grapple with identity and authentication problems, voice is a solution that they may turn to. For Computing Canada, I'm Howard Solomon.